$100,000.
Hmm.
Just want to let that number hang in the air for a moment. $100,000. When you hear that figure attached to the words scholarship money, where does your brain go?
Usually. It goes straight to outliers. You assume we're talking about a cello prodigy who's been playing since they were in diapers.
Right.
Or like the star quarterback who's being scouted by the NFL.
Exactly. You assume it's talent that's 1 in a million. But the figure we are starting with today, that 100 grand, it didn't go to a prodigy. It went to a guy who explicitly describes himself as having no athletic ability.
Which, given his family context, is actually kind of hilarious and tragic at the same time.
Right. Today, we are deep diving into the S4Y Scholarship Guide, specifically the 2026 update by Bertha Deas Bailey. And his backstory is just the perfect hook for this entire conversation.
It really is. Bailey writes about growing up as the last of 11 children.
11.
11. And apparently the other 10 were absolute machines. They were elite athletes, all of them attending college on full athletic rides.
Can you just imagine the dinner table conversation? You've got 10 track stars and football players.
Yeah.
And then there's Bertha Deas, the baby of the family, realizing, uh-oh, I can't catch a football, so how am I going to pay for this?
It's the ultimate underdog setup. But that's the crucial pivot point. He realized he couldn't rely on physical talent, so he had to build a system. He shifts the language from hoping for money to hunting for it.
And that distinction is what we are unpacking today. This isn't just about filling out forms, it's a methodology. It's about how to fund a future without debt when you aren't the star quarterback.
And Bailey is very upfront in his intro. He says, this isn't magic.
I love that.
Yeah, he warns against false hope right out of the gate. He believes that the effort you put into the scholarship process is a direct mirror of the effort you'll put into your degree. It's about work ethic, not luck.
So let's get into the weeds of this, Hunt, because the first piece of advice he gives is something that I think 99% of people, myself included, would get wrong.
Yeah.
If I need money for school, what is the very first thing I do? I open my laptop and I type scholarships into Google.
And that is exactly what Bailey calls the internet paradox. He actually advises against starting there.
Which sounds completely backwards. The internet is where the information lives. Why would you tell people to ignore it?
He's not saying ignore it forever, but he's saying don't start there. And the logic is actually sound. If you type scholarships into Google, what happens?
Millions of results.
You get millions of results. You get overwhelmed. You see these national sweepstakes where you're competing against, 50,000 other students?
It's analysis paralysis.
Exactly. It leads to what he calls inaction. You look at the mountain of information, you feel small, and you end up applying for nothing. Or you apply for the easy ones that everyone else applies for, and your odds of winning just drop to near zero.
So if we aren't Googling, where are we digging? He breaks this down into 3 preferred methods that seem a lot more analog.
It's very boots on the ground. His first method is high school resources.
Which feels a bit old school. You mean just waiting for the guidance counselor to call you in?
No, and that's the key. You can't wait. You have to be proactive. He mentions his own counselor, Dr. Parker, who sent out weekly emails. The thing is, schools often curate lists of local opportunities, Rotary clubs, local foundations, small businesses that simply aren't indexed well on Google.
So these are the scholarships that don't have, SEO experts maximizing their web presence.
Right. They are hidden gems. You have to be on the mailing list to find them.
Okay, so method 1 is squeezing your school for info. Method 2 he calls the network. This sounds like business advice, not student advice.
It is business advice, and that's how he treats it. The network is your friends, teachers, professors, coaches. The insight here is fascinating. People often know about scholarships that they personally don't qualify for.
Oh, that's interesting. So a teacher might see a scholarship for left-handed writers and just ignore it because they're right-handed, but they forget to tell you.
Exactly. But if you haven't explicitly told that teacher, I am hunting for money, please send anything you see my way, they won't make that connection. Bailey argues that, closed mouths don't get fed. You have to broadcast your need professionally.
It's about mobilizing other people to be scouts for you.
Precisely. But the third method, this is the one he calls the Holy Grail.
Nominations.
Nominations.
I paused on this one because it sounds too good to be true. You don't apply, you just get picked.
Well, you still have to do the work eventually, but the entry point is different. Bailey notes that his biggest financial wins, the heavy hitter checks, came from being nominated by a teacher or community leader, not from applying cold.
Why is that? Is it just less competition?
It's less competition, sure, but it's also about pre-vetting. When an organization receives a nomination from a respected teacher saying, this is the student you should look at, you have already bypassed the first layer of scrutiny. You aren't just a name in a stack of 500 papers. You're the person Mr. Smith vouched for.
Trust is transferred.
Exactly. It's a massive psychological advantage.
Okay, so we're working local angle, we're getting nominated. But eventually, you do have to deal with the sheer volume of applications. Bailey has a concept called targeted volume.
This is the grind. Targeted volume is his answer to the numbers game. He suggests applying for every scholarship where you meet the minimum requirements.
Even if you feel like you're on the ball.
Even if you just barely scrape by the GPA requirement, you qualify to apply. He mentions he had an 85% success rate after high school.
85% is wild. Most people have 10%.
It is wild, but remember, he's applying to those local, smaller pools we talked about. A $500 scholarship from a local credit union might only have 20 applicants.
Right.
If you apply for 10 of those, you're likely to win a few. He stacked the small wins to build that $100,000 total.
It's the snowball effect. Okay, I want to shift gears to the logistics. I know nobody likes talking about paperwork, but the 2026-27 guide highlights some massive changes to the FAFSA. And if we don't cover this, we are doing you a disservice.
We absolutely have to cover this. If you have older siblings and you watched them do the FAFSA 5 years ago, wipe that from your memory. The system has changed.
First off, the alphabet soup is different.
Right. We used to talk about the EFC, or expected family contribution. That term is dead.
Gone.
It's gone. Now it's the SAI, or Student Aid Index.
Which sounds a little more robotic, honestly.
It is an index number used to determine eligibility, not a literal dollar amount you're expected to write a check for. But the terminology change isn't the scary part. The scary part is the new concept of contributors.
It sounds like we're on a crowdfunding site. Become a contributor. But in FAFSA terms, it means something very specific.
A contributor is anyone required to provide information. So parents, step-parents, spouses. And here is the 2026 reality check. Every single contributor must create an account and provide consent for a direct data exchange with the IRS.
Meaning the FA just pulls the tax data automatically.
Yes. But here is the kicker. If a contributor, say, your dad refuses to give that consent because he's paranoid about data privacy or he's just stubborn, the student is ineligible for federal aid.
Wait, ineligible? Like zero?
Zero. It's a hard stop. You cannot manually input the numbers anymore as a workaround for refusal. If the consent isn't there, the aid isn't there.
That puts a lot of pressure on the student to manage their parents, effectively.
It does. It turns the student into the project manager of their own financial survival. You have to make sure everyone does their part.
While we're talking about money traps, let's talk scams. Because if you are out there hunting, as Bailey suggests, you are going to run into traps.
You will. And the scammers are getting better. They know students are desperate. They know the debt numbers are scary.
Bailey provides a red flags checklist. Is there one rule to rule them all?
There is, the golden rule. Legitimate scholarships are always free.
Always.
No exceptions. If a website asks you for a redemption fee, a processing fee, or money to reserve your scholarship, close the browser. It is a scam.
It's so predatory.
Yeah.
Pay us $20 to get your $1,000.
Exactly. And it plays on the sunk cost fallacy. You think, well, $20 isn't much if I'm getting 1,000. But there is no 1,000.
What about those sites that promise results? We guarantee you'll win money.
Guaranteed is a dirty word in the scholarship world. No third-party service can guarantee what a scholarship board will decide. If you see the word guaranteed, run.
He also mentions data privacy.
This is crucial. Bailey warns about applications asking for your social security number early in the process, before you've even been selected.
Because usually you only need that when you're getting the check, right? For taxes.
Right. If they are asking for your SSN on page 1 of the application, alongside your name and address, that is a massive red flag. That's a data harvesting operation, not a scholarship.
Okay, so we've navigated the FSM minefield. We've dodged the scammers. Now comes the part that I think freezes people up the most, the essay. You are staring at a blank page, cursor blinking. Bailey says almost every prompt boils down to one word, you.
And that is terrifying for a lot of students. We're taught in school to write about history or science or literature. We aren't taught to write about ourselves. It's an exercise in vulnerability.
He says committees don't just want to know your grades.
They have your transcript for that. They know you got an A in chemistry. They want to know the person behind the A. They want the story.
Bailey outlines a specific writing structure called the mirror effect. I really like this because it makes the abstract idea of storytelling very concrete. Can you break it down?
It's a great technique. Think of your essay as a circle. You start with a hook, a thought-provoking idea, a specific moment, or an image. Then, the body of the essay is your story, the struggle, the obstacle, the triumph. But the mirror happens at the end. Your conclusion should reflect that opening image. It should come full circle.
So if you start with a story about, say, sitting on a porch, listening to rain,
Yeah.
you end on that porch.
Exactly. Gives the reader a sense of closure and completeness. It makes the essay feel like a crafted piece of writing, not just a list of complaints or brags.
He uses a really personal example in the guide to illustrate this. He talks about his cousin.
It's a powerful example. He discusses a cousin who is gang affiliated. Now, a lot of counselors would tell you, don't write about gangs, it's too risky.
It feels like a taboo subject for a polished scholarship application.
But look at how he uses it. He doesn't use it for shock value. He uses the relationship to illustrate the environment he grew up in. He contrasts his cousin's belief that college isn't for people like us with his own drive to break generational poverty.
It answers the why.
Exactly. It answers, why do you need this money? Without just saying, I'm broke. It says, I need this money to change the trajectory of my family. That is compelling.
But, and here's the devil's advocate in me, if I have to write a deeply emotional, trauma-mining essay for every single $500 application, I'm going to burn out in a week.
You absolutely would. And Bailey says, don't do that. This connects back to targeted volume. You need a system. He suggests having a resume of answers.
Like a cheat sheet.
More like a database.
Yeah.
He suggests writing your top 3 brags and your answer to what makes you unique and having them polished and ready. When you open a new application, you aren't starting from zero. You are copy-pasting, tweaking, and adapting.
You're mixing and matching modules.
It turns a 3-hour writing session into a 20-minute editing session. That is the only way to apply for 50 scholarships without losing your mind.
Top 3 brags is such a good concept. I feel like most people can't name 3 things they're great at without getting shot.
It's a life skill. If you can't sell yourself, nobody else will buy it.
Now, there is a pervasive myth that Bailey attacks, and I'm so glad he does. It's the idea that the scholarship game ends when you throw your cap in the air at high school graduation.
The high school limit. It is completely false. Bailey actually secured about $75,000, half of his total haul, while he was already a student at the University of Oklahoma.
$75,000 while enrolled. That's not pocket money, that's a salary. Where on earth is he finding that kind of cash on campus?
It's certainly not in the high school guidance office anymore. He lists a few places that current college students ignore. The first is department heads.
The professors.
Yes, think about it. Alumni donate money to their specific departments. I want this $5,000 to go to a junior geology major. If you're a junior geology major and you don't ask the department head if there's any funding available, that money often sits there.
It goes unclaimed.
Frequently. Because nobody asks.
He also mentions scholarship hubs, but the one that really made me stop and reread the page was pageants.
I knew you were going to bring this up.
I mean, come on. Pageants.
Hear him out. He specifies pageants for men and women.
I'm trying to picture the average fraternity guy doing a pageant. It's the funny image.
Think less tiara and sash, and more talent competition or oratorical contest. Things like Mr. and Miss University. Bailey mentions he won significant money through talent competitions.
So you're telling me that if I had just learned to tap dance or juggle, I could have paid off my student loans?
Or speak publicly. Or organize a community event. The point isn't the pageant itself. The point is leveraging whatever skill you have into cash.
Right.
If you can sing, find a scholarship for singers. If you can speak, find a debate contest. It's about not leaving any stone unturned.
That's a fair point. If it pays the bills, I guess I'd put on a sash.
For $5,000, I'd wear 2 sashes.
So let's say the system works. You hunt, you network, you write the essay, you win the pageant, you get the check. Bailey shifts gears here into what I'd call defense.
The retention phase.
He has some very strict advice about refund checks. For the listener who hasn't been to college yet, explain what that is.
So financial aid is applied to your tuition and dorm bill first. If you have scholarships that cover more than that bill, the university cuts a check to you for the difference.
And to a 19-year-old, receiving a check for $3,000 feels like winning the lottery.
It looks like party money. It looks like spring break. Bailey is screaming from the pages here. That is survival money.
He talks about the hidden expenses.
College eats money. It's not just tuition. It's sheets, laundry detergent, late-night pizza, bus tickets home, social dues. He warns that if you blow that refund check in September on new clothes, you are going to be struggling to buy toothpaste in November.
He even suggests maintaining a side hustle, regardless of how much scholarship money you have.
Don't lose your hustle. He lists the classics: mowing lawns, driving Uber, but he also mentions plasma donation.
The classic college liquidity event. I think everyone I knew donated plasma at least once.
It's a rite of passage. But his point is deeper than just work hard. It's about diversification. You never want to be 100% dependent on one source of funding. If a scholarship check is delayed, or if you lose one, you need a buffer.
And losing one is a real possibility. This is the other part of the retention phase.
Scholarships are conditional. They are a contract. They can be revoked.
Aside from the obvious bad grades, we know you have to keep the GPA up. How do people lose them?
Disciplinary infractions are a big one. A DUI, getting into a fight on campus. These are breaches of the code of conduct for many private foundations. They can pull the funding immediately.
There's also a note about changing majors.
That's a sneaky one. Remember that geology money we talked about?
Yeah.
If you take that money and then switch your major to art history halfway through the semester, you might have to pay that money back. Or at least you lose it for the next semester. You have to know the terms of your agreement.
Throughout this whole process, the hunting, the applying, the hustle Bailey talks a lot about rejection. He shares his game plan sheet, and it's covered in red marks.
It looks like a battlefield.
Right.
Those red marks represent the no's. He was denied constantly.
It's easy to look at the $100,000 number and forget the failures.
Right. But his mindset is fascinating. He used rejection as data. He didn't let 3 no's in a row stop him from getting the 4th yes. And crucially, when he did get a yes, or even a helpful no, he emphasizes the thank you note.
Is that just him being polite? Or is there a strategy there?
It is deeply strategic. He provides a template for it. Think about it. Scholarship committees are made up of people. If you write a sincere, professional thank you note, you stop being a file number and start being a human being.
You're building a relationship.
You are. And that relationship can lead to future nominations or recommendations or tips on other funding. It loops right back to the network concept we started with. You are always farming for the next season.
So let's zoom out. We have a listener right now who is looking at a $40,000 tuition bill.
Yeah.
They feel crushed. They feel like it's impossible. If we boil Bailey's experience down, what is the core message?
The message is that scholarships are about buying freedom. Bailey mentions the average debt is nearly $40,000 for a bachelor's degree. That debt is a shackle. It dictates where you can live, what jobs you have to take, when you can buy a house.
It limits your choices before you've even started.
Exactly. By treating scholarship hunting as a job, by using this methodology of hunting instead of hoping, you are earning your future freedom. You are buying the ability to take risks and focus on your education rather than just survival.
It's the difference between starting the race at the starting line versus starting it 50 yards behind everyone else.
Precisely.
Now, before we sign off, I want to hit one final thought from the guide that I found really provocative. It's a modern reality check that I hadn't really considered as part of a scholarship application.
The social media brand.
Yes, this felt like a splash of cold water.
It's scary but true. Bailey warns that scholarship committees will Google you. They will look at your Instagram, your TikTok, your Twitter.
He calls it your public resume.
And he poses the question, are your posts costing you thousands of dollars?
That is a heavy question.
It is. If you have profane language, gang signs, bullying, or inappropriate content on your timeline, you are a risky investment for a foundation. They don't want their logo associated with a liability.
So if a committee is deciding between 2 students with equal grades, and one has a clean, positive Instagram, and the other is posting videos of keg stands,
The money goes to the clean profile. Every time.
that is such a harsh but necessary reality check. Your timeline isn't a diary, it's a billboard.
It is. And you want that billboard to scream scholarship recipient, not risk.
Well, there you have it. From the internet paradox to the mirror effect essay, avoiding the contributor trap on the FAFSA, and finally, cleaning up your digital footprint.
It's a comprehensive roadmap.
A huge thank you to Berthadeus Bailey and his S4Y scholarship guide for providing the map for today's deep dive.
It's definitely a roadmap worth following.
Absolutely. Thanks for listening. Good with that money.
And keep it.
See you next time.